Recording.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the BakeSmart Bench. We're excited to be here, and we have a pretty fun and interesting topic. We have not, in full disclosure, talked amongst ourselves about this topic yet, so we thought it would be best just to hit record and start sharing our thoughts around it. And ultimately, what the position is that we're going to talk about here is when the world collapses, it's actually good. And what does that mean? Um, so this actually lends the heart. It reminds me this topic is something that I felt really became very real to me personally as I was navigating a large bakery through the COVID pandemic. And just a quick reminder, although many people probably don't need that quick reminder, the world around us all shut down except for bakeries and grocery stores who were deemed essential. And we as bakeries had this very fortunate or unfortunate, however you looked at it, position to be able to continue operations during, literally the collapse of the world. And that came with so many challenges, from HR challenges where you're managing a young team of sales staff who their parents were afraid to let them out into the world. So many dropped off and didn't work anymore. You had production challenges because we were getting supplies in the same kind of way. We had the complete at our bakery, which was at that point about 40%, close to 40% wholesale, 70-ish percent retail. We lost all the wholesale with a light switch, where we would service caterers, wedding venues, event halls, big corporate offices. We did lots of like sheet cakes for celebrations, custom cookies, cupcakes for, big, large corporations in our area. All of that went away with no hole to fill. I mean, there was a huge gaping hole and we had nothing to fill it with. So it was a challenge operationally to pivot and shift our business so that we could actually stay profitable. We had multi-locations, so as you can imagine, there was even a higher sense of challenge operating those satellite locations, and making sure that we were staying relevant in our community and a safe place for people to come. And during that time, what I realized is something that I heard my dad throwing in my ear all of the time, is that when things get hard, bakeries thrive. And that's because two reasons he used to tell me. One, we sell legal crack cocaine. And I was like, Dad, what do you mean by that? He goes, do you realize how addictive sugar is? And I was like, a young child at that point. And I was like, I have no idea, as I'm shoving my face full of like eclairs and cookies. And so he understood that, obviously. And then he was like, and we're an affordable luxury.
Yep.
So people want to feel special. They want to feel cared for. They want to feel seen. They want to celebrate a good grade on a math test. They want to come and mourn over a breakup with a boyfriend after high school. They want the big celebrations, the birthdays, the graduations, the retirements, the baby showers, the weddings.
And thinking about that too, like what is the thing at minimum you do for a partner or for a family member or someone, a dog? Happy birthday to you, here's a cake. The cake is always the thing that makes an appearance, even if there's not a party, even if there's not people or a celebration. It's always a cake or a cupcake or some sort of sweet treat. It always makes an appearance. It's my birthday, cake. My grandma died, cake. I got a good annotated paper, cake. I got a promotion, cake. So
Cake.
It is an affordable luxury.
Cookie.
Or cookies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think our job as bakery operators is to figure out exactly what we can offer to fill in the blank there. It doesn't always have to be a cake. It can be a cookie. It can be a cake. I remember pivoting during COVID, during winter. Midwest was where our bakery was, and we were looking for ways to bring people into our bakery to celebrate, to take the drive, to basically take the left turn instead of the right to go home and stop at our bakery for that moment, that special like luxury, so to say. And we launched hot cocoa bombs. Do you guys remember when those like blew
Nice.
up
The
during COVID? It
cocoa
was a blow up.
it was insane.
It was insane. And I remember showing my mom at one point, and I was like, Mom, we got to get these. We had customers coming in and asking for them, and I didn't even know what they were. I was running a bakery. I wasn't on TikTok. I had no idea. It was the pandemic, and I wasn't paying attention to social media. And we had customer after customer. One day, we had like 4 customers come in and ask for cocoa bombs. And we're like, what's a cocoa bomb?
And
And
that's
then we
the
found
thing.
it. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing is you just said it yourself. You're not on TikTok and Instagram because you're running a business. And why is it that people aren't doing it at home, but they're coming to you? It's because of the time constraint and the skill set and the supplies that you have to buy. And so there's a big portion of what bakery does in which we need to make products accessible that people can't do on their own. And so that's
Or
something
can,
but choose not to, or don't have the time or don't want to, right? So that's that affordable luxury part of it, right? Like they do want to have the nice things, but they don't have the time to do it. So let's go over there and get the next thing. So the cocoa bombs for you guys, and we tried them too, but I was just like, I don't want to buy the things.
They saved
and it was hard.
Yeah.
You know what we did? We made Eat Your Feelings. Eat Your Feelings is what got us through the pandemic. So, Ari, Eat Your Feelings was something that we also found on Instagram. Okay, it was the leftover cake and frosting that we had from cutting cake down and topping off cake that a lot of people turned into cake truffles for a little while that I learned from Shelley's dad. We put that in a 4x4 clamshell, the scraps, and then just farted some frosting on top and a handful of sprinkles. I had my barista staff do it, and we closed them. We sold them for $8, and it was just cakes and frosting. We called them Eat Your Feelings, and it was random stuff, and it was sometimes you just need cake and frosting, and here you go. And we sold out of those to a point where it was like, do we want to start making cake for Eat Your Feelings, or are we going to hold the line and just make dollars off of scrap, right? So. I think that's the same thing that happened with cake balls too, right? That was, I know with your dad, you started making cake balls out of scraps, and then all of a sudden you found yourself making cake to produce for the cake balls.
Yeah, true to do, exactly. And that's one of the things that I was just, as I'm sitting here thinking, we should do a whole short episode on waste in bakeries and how really, if you're running your bakery efficiently, you're not wasting anything. Everything can be recycled into something new. In your shop. So most things shouldn't go into your dumpster at the end of their shelf life because they can be recycled into a new product. I have tons of examples of things.
And then marketed as luxury.
And then marketed. No, I mean, everything, I can save it for another episode, but I could give you a list of 10 items that were some of our top sellers that were actually products that didn't sell during their shelf life as original products and then would be recycled into this new product that were top sellers. So we'll save that for another.
I was going to say, we've got people interested in that comment, and we'll talk about that next week for sure.
I'll give you examples of everything we did.
I'm already thinking of some. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that as you run a retail bakery, and I would love, Ari, to hear because I know you've had different experiences at different shops. And I have a pretty singular view up until working at BakeSmart, where I get to see behind, the curtain of hundreds of bakeries. But when you're intentional, we actually built a calendar at BakeSmart because something that we did at our bakery, and I see really successful bakeries do, is they create things to celebrate. So what they're doing is they're not waiting always for the customer to come to them and say, hey, I need to order a cake for this celebration. They're telling their customer, hey, did you know May 4th is Star Wars Day? May the 4th be with you. And we got cookies to celebrate, and we got this to celebrate. Or, hey, did you know it's National Blueberry Muffin Day? And we tell our customers to tell their customers that. And then they're creating social media promotions. They're creating specials, maybe like buy a dozen and you'll get a discount on a dozen. And before you know it, boom.
Well, look
Random
at Pi Day.
Wednesday.
Look at Pi Day.
Yeah.
Pi Day was something
Yeah.
that only kicked off, and I think the pandemic had a lot to do with that. And through the pandemic, there was a lot of push towards celebrating the mundane and celebrating, in a way that didn't allow people to get together, right? And so we would do, little celebrations. Pi Day turned into like one of our busiest pie holidays. May the 4th really kicked off for us, following the pandemic. Our Eat Your Feelings boxes, also the Take and Deco boxes, for cupcakes or cookies. Like we sold more of the decorate your own cookie DIY kits because people were doing that during the pandemic because they had to find things to do with their families, that just became a part of the norm. And then people started looking at, what was the next month's theme going to be for the, take and deco or the do your own cookie box. Something else that popped up that I want to get your opinion on here, and I don't know if you guys experienced this. My staff at the bakery in Austin. Austin is a cottage law town, cottage law bakery, bakery place where you can run a cottage out of your home. Take with that, have opinions on that as you will. But a lot of my staff, ran bakeries out of their homes, And that was just something, I didn't have a non-compete, I didn't care, whatever you needed to do to be successful. But they started subscription boxes in which they would sell monthly subscription boxes through Instagram and through Facebook, and some of them even on Etsy, and then they would pick a day of the month and bake. What do you think the difference between like that kind of delivery system, and then what's missing, I guess? What's missing between that and walking into a bakery? Why would someone opt into a subscription box versus walking into a bakery? I was always curious to know how successful that was,
Well,
That's a good question.
Yeah, and I think about it, like I think about other subscription boxes that I get. Like I found a coffee that I really like, and I now order it delivered straight to my house, right? Essentially, it's a subscription box. I have a subscription. Every month they charge me, and they send me fresh coffee beans, and then I don't have to go to the coffee store that I used to. And I kind of miss the coffee store. I'm about 4 months into it now, and I haven't gone to the coffee store, and I kind of miss the community connection. I kind of miss the but I also really like the convenience of the subscription box because I don't run out of coffee anymore. And I used to run out of coffee and think, oh my God, I got to order coffee because I'm about to grind the last of the beans. And then I'd go 2 or 3 days before I put an order in, and then a week before it got delivered. So what I really like about the subscription boxes is that I never run out of the things I love. And I think that's a really powerful tool for a bakery. Like you're in people's kitchens, you're on their counter continually, right? They're always being exposed to your product. What you're missing as a customer, though, is that special feeling of getting into the bakery. But in order to do that, you got to make your bakery worth it to visit. And I think that's something that we should talk through a little bit. Like, what makes it worth it to go to a bakery? Empty cases
to like reach
don't.
into your pocket when it's a tight month and gas is $4 or more a gallon, but you're still going to the bakery. What is it? What is it?
Yeah, what is it? What makes it worth it? I
draws
think I can give you my list. I think my list is full cases, clean atmosphere, friendly staff, an experience that leaves me like happy that I encountered like a good small business. I like supporting small business, but only if they're run well. If they're not run well, it bothers me. So I
Well, if
feel
they're
like
not run
those
well.
are the, yeah,
If they're not run well, the front of house staff is going to be the first person to let you know. Period.
yeah.
Period. Your front of house staff is the face of your product, and I will argue that until I am blue in the lips.
Yeah.
If your front of house is not happy, no one's buying your stuff. It could be made of gold. I don't care. Like, no, you could be giving it away. No one's going to come get it if your front of house staff doesn't do it. And I think that in talking about product and in talking about people reaching into their empty wallets and pulling out for affordable luxury, we can't discount, that you have to take care of your staff in order for that to be attainable, right? Even considered. So yeah, I think that that's huge. Clean cases, clean environment, full cases, happy staff.
Full cases. Yeah, and I think a full case, a lot of times bakeries overlook the power of a full case. And it's something that I think is a big mistake in a lot of bakeries is they get scared of the waste element as opposed to seeing the potential of the abundance mentality and eating the waste of Danish or donuts, if you're selling cookies, Danish donuts, things that might have 1, maybe 2 day shelf life, there's a real fear some operators have of saying, don't make too much because I don't want to throw it away. But then when you're open till 5 o'clock at night and I stop in your bakery at 4 o'clock on my way home from work and there's nothing to choose from, I'm driving right by the next day.
It's kind of awkward, isn't
Well,
it?
and
When you walk in and it's just like bare and kind of like
well, and
You're like, how
so
old
I
is
have this
that?
question.
standing there.
I have this
Yeah.
question for
Yeah.
Ari, for you, like from a back of house standpoint, and this is always the bridge you gotta ride, right? Like or the gap you gotta span or whatever the word is. Like, how much margin do you build in to account for waste? And like, what does that look like? Like, how would you factor that in? I mean, I know my methods of doing that were like super like, almost like a counting on my fingers in a calculator. I'd be like, well, it costs me this much to make these things and I can probably throw away 4%, 5% of what it made and still be okay. What does it look like for production? Like, that's a weird question.
It's a good question though. And to be honest with you, I think a lot of bakeries that I started at when I was earlier on in my career, they didn't really keep that in mind so much. It was more of the old school mentality of, we're going to make what we make. And if we sell out, we sell out. And if you come in late, you're SOL, that's on you. Sorry. And there are definitely benefits to that model financially, especially, if you can make your whole day's worth of product and sell out in 2 hours, more power to you. But
As long as you close your shop and you stop.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. But if your goal is to stay open later to be more of a community element, one of the last truly retail bakeries that I worked at was really, really good about their timing and their quantities. It wasn't necessarily that they wanted a set amount in the morning and then run it out all day. They wanted to see set amounts throughout the day. And so we didn't necessarily create a margin of waste. I would say, maybe around 5%. You mentioned 5, that sounds about right. But their goal, and I thought it was really interesting, we closed at 6 p.m. At 2:30 to 3 p.m., we would calculate kind of the last fill of the day. We would backfill the cases with products. The reason being we wanted those customers coming in after work between 4 and 6 or 6:30, sometimes in the summer, to have that same full case experience, Shelley, that you mentioned. Is you come in, you're not getting that awkward feeling of like, I'm just getting the last baguette here, like it's kind of sketchy.
Yeah.
And ownership was very fine with donating some of that product. I mean, honestly, and it didn't always sell, but we were lucky enough to be right down the street from a large Catholic family center. So we would donate a lot of the unsold product. So it was a really nice program and it worked pretty beautifully.
Yeah, and there's also really great programs now that I know a lot of bakeries use, like the Too Good to Go program, which is
We use that a lot.
where you're doing things that have a shelf life. And I think that there's when I walk into a bakery, and I tend to like to visit bakeries, especially if they're customers at BakeSmart or I'm working with them in a consulting way, I like to go in as a blind shopper at the end of the day because I want to see how they're treating that customer compared to how they're treating the customer that's coming in right in the morning when everything's fresh and in the case. Because I would fight, I would actually argue with the operator that it's the same customer. The dollar is worth the same, whether it's spent in the morning or in the afternoon.
Exactly.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what time of day. And of course, you're not going to have the same amount of donuts that are available at 4 o'clock in the afternoon as you do at 7 a.m. But as long as you have something, I don't want to stop here and that I think is the power of having a diversified product line too, to make your bakery worth it to stop at. You have that luxury. So if they do stop in to get donuts, but you're sold out, they can pivot and turn and find something that might have a 7 or 8 day shelf life that you've made, like a cocoa bomb or chocolate truffles or, something in your refrigerated case that we all know has a much longer shelf life. They can pivot and turn and still that luxury treat,
Yeah.
So
yeah, for sure.
I have a question for both of you, actually, and this is kind of divisive, but I'm going to tie it back to the affordable luxury. So I've heard many opinions on this both ways. What are your thoughts on discounting products at a certain time of day to encourage that sellout?
I'm
I
sure.
know there's some people that are for it to encourage the sale. Some are against it, saying, "Well, you're training your customer to just come in later for a discount." I'm
So
just kind of curious.
Yeah, I have a strong opinion on
Ooh,
this,
okay,
Heather. Go ahead.
I'll tell you exactly what we did, because I know Shelley's strong
okay.
opinion on this. And she and I talked
Ooh,
about this and fought about this all the time during the pandemic, when we would call each other to scream at each other about how chaos was running a
sure.
multi-location operation. It was like parallel universes for us. But every single day, at 5:30 p.m., we went buy one, get one free on all single day or expiring shelf life, and I was open until 9 at one location and midnight at
Oh,
another location. The second
dang.
location
Okay,
had cocktails and live music, so that's why we were open till midnight. But
sure.
every single day at 5:30, we would get all of our single day shelf life, anything left over from the AM pastry case, and anything that was expiring, it became buy one, get one free. And inevitably, every single day at 5:15, people started milling about in the cafe, not getting in line, waiting around, seeing what was
With
in the
that light turn
case.
on, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, and I get it. Yes, and I understand the power of that. If you especially, I would argue, I listen to that and I'm like, you're producing too much to discount your
Mhm.
stuff because in theory, we never did that at our bakery. And we actually had a very adamant, very stronghold line in the cement around discounted bakery because I never, and this is why. It's very simple reason. I never want somebody picking up something from like our bakery with our logo on it, taking it to a friend's house as a gift, which was very common. Obviously, we all know we gift bakery to people, or have friends over at your house and they're like, look at this awesome stuff that I got. And they're not going to say, I bought it on discount. They're going to just present it as the premium quality and,
Uh,
of what it
sure.
was. And then that guest is going to eat it and be like, that was garbage because it's old. And if there was a reason that you sold it on discount, it's because you couldn't get full price for it, right?
Mhm.
So I it's rare, I think, for a bakery to discount in hours, like before they close, because you want to get top dollar before that expires. Essentially, maybe next day, there's a lot of bakery operators that are really, they find the like, I want to do it. I don't want to throw this away. Well,
Right.
that's what this other episode we should talk about. What are cool ways to recycle day old product into new viable product that's can be sold as something new? And for us, what we would do is when we did have products, so we closed on Sunday, we were closed until Tuesday morning, and we had Danish dough. We could save some of it, and we did for some of this other product, but sometimes we would just have a slow Sunday. And now we're looking at a half a rack of coffee cakes and Danish and
Yeah.
maybe croissants that we're like, we can't do much with this. What are we going to do? We package it up almost consistently and took it to the fire department or the police department.
Mhm.
And we then built goodwill in our community. Everybody probably does that at their bakery, but that is an important part of running a bakery too,
It is.
And when you discount product, one last thing I have to say about this, sorry, this is a hot topic for
I
me.
love it. I love it.
When you discount product anywhere, bakery or anywhere,
Mhm.
you're diminishing the value of what you're selling, in my
Mhm.
opinion. So you're not you're basically saying that, hey, I open in the morning and I believe that my bakery has this value to it. But in
Mhm.
the afternoon, it's not as valuable anymore.
I
And to me,
disagree.
that's not, but that's what in general discounts do. Discounts drop the perception of value lower.
We got to
I
get sound effects on
believe,
here. I want the little fight bell,
okay,
you know? The
brr,
little-
brr, brr. Yeah, I
exactly.
disagree.
Yeah.
And here's why. Because we opened at 6:30 a.m. and we sold until 5:30 p.m. All of our single day shelf life stuff. We were a scratch natural bakery, right? So my muffins, the quality started to diminish after 5:30. That's just the quality of scratch natural stuff that sits in an open air case, right? Because we're an open air bakery. it was in Austin, Texas. We took the case doors off because that's how damn busy we were, that opening and closing the cases all day was an irritation.
Yeah.
And so the quality of the product, while it was still delicious up until 10 p.m. or 9 p.m., it wasn't as fresh as it was in the morning. Also, we were in a college town and we had a lot of college students coming in who were broke. And so this is where the affordable luxury part of it really comes in for us, and the part of building community came in for us, is because instead of hanging on to this product that nobody wants because it's a chocolate chip muffin and it's 8 o'clock and people are coming in for a slice of cake, I'm going to offer it buy one, get one free, right? So if you get this muffin and that muffin, then one of them is free. But if we're out of muffins, then you're going to get a cake or a cupcake or something else. And so that's not the hot item that people are coming in for at that time, but I still want to, get it out of my case, so I'm not throwing it in the trash, because that doesn't make anybody feel good. And frankly, the fire department told me to stop bringing stuff to them because they're all getting chubby. Right. True story. They're like, Heather, we love you, but bring this somewhere else. So we kind of like got into this thing. And then when Too Good To Go came around, we kind of like toyed around with that as well. And then we started doing that because affordable luxury was such a huge part of who we were as a bakery in the community, that it felt good to know that instead of something going in the trash at the end of the day, somebody for $3.99 or whatever the price was at the time would be able to get a mystery box of cake and stuff. And so yeah,
question to both of you guys. What was your, and we're kind of getting a little off track with the affordable luxury, but it's something that I'm thinking through right now is, did you allow your staff to take things at no charge that were going to be 86 at the end of the day?
Yes. I allowed my staff to eat for free no matter what, anytime they wanted throughout the day. The rule was just don't take the last one. So if it's the last sausage and cheese kolache, don't take it. Leave it for a customer to buy. But that was another part of like the community building, is I didn't care. If you were hungry, eat. If you were thirsty, drink something. Nothing purchased, and no canned or bottled, no chips or sandwiches. But
that will pause that entire topic of anybody can eat anything they want the entire time they work is something that we should table, because I think there's tons and tons to dig into. I think that it just like absolutely mirrors the whole like, how do you build good culture at your bakery? I disagree with that, which is awesome because we can save that. I think that there are different ways that you can do it, and I understand why Heather did it. We did not do that. I don't think it's an effective way personally to build culture at a bakery, but we'll save that, and it'll be a fun discussion at a different time.
This is the one we're going to need the sound effects for, Ari. So work on that, because them's fighting words for me, friend.
Oh man, I love it.
Shelly and I have known each other for a long time, but we have polarizing opposites on community engagement and community building inside a bakery.
I'll be the UFC ref. I'll put some gloves on. It'll be fun. It'll be good. I'll do through it.
We kind of talked about seasonal drops, limited time offers, like putting something on like for a limited time is a great way to, I think, build that idea of luxury in a moment around a product. When you're like, hey, for the May the 4th be with you is a great example. Pi Day, great example. Or hey, we're just there's our best friend here, Miss Olive.
Can you get off? She's like, you're talking about cookies. I love cookies.
I love and then I think that sometimes, people think about being special doesn't need to be complicated. You can throw specials around and keep it really easy to manage in your shop.
And something that people kind of undervalue too in the bakery, and this is something that came into training staff, is that somebody ordering a cake isn't always a happy occasion, right? It's not always a happy occasion. People are ordering, platters of cookies and platters of sandwiches if your production space does that. And, sometimes just cakes and things like that, cupcakes and things to bring to a sad event, to bring to a funeral. So that's the part too that comes into like when the world is collapsing, like what's the thing that people can gather around, and it's something that just brings a little bit of joy. And this even ties back into like what we talked about in our first episode of like, what is it that draws us to bakery? And for me, it's that, there is community around baked goods. There is community around cookie drive. Think about, a bake sale at a school, right? So everybody kind of leans to baking because it is just that little thread of happiness and joy that you can give somebody on the most miserable day of their life. And there's something kind of like, soft and appreciative about that. And I'm always really thankful that somebody chose us to, help fix or help soothe in any small amount of way, whatever, thing that they're dealing with.
Absolutely. I think at the heart of so many bakeries is the honor that it is to serve the community through those events. And that's why operators do it. People, sometimes we joke like, why would you run a bakery? Because how much work it is and how like so many moving parts that you're managing day in and day out. And it's because it matters. Bakeries matter, and they matter a lot to the communities they serve. They matter a lot to the families that are around tables when there's a cake in the middle of it. It really does matter for humanity at large. And it is the reason I still work in the industry, because I really do believe that bakeries matter a lot to communities.
A ton. So let me ask you one question before we start. Go ahead, Ari. Go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to say not to get like overly sentimental or anything, but I remember when I was a kid, our little small, hometown bakery. I remember running through that front door a bunch of times. Like my mom would like open the door and me and my brothers would run through it, kind of thing. And then years later, I was telling my wife that, and she goes, yeah, a bakery is probably one of the only things I would run through the door for. So it kind of connected me back to being a kid, and I was like, okay, so there is sort of that home childhood happiness, that sort of element. That just popped into my head.
I mean, you walk in and you're immediately hit with the smell, the visual, the joy. It's just like all of those things, and it's amazing. Like at Shelley's parents' place, they use a little red and white string to tie every bake closed, like baker's twine. To tie every bakery box closed. And you could walk into a party with the white box with the red and white string with no other label on it, and you immediately spark joy. It's like a very Marie Como moment, right? Does this bring you joy? Every bakery is a Marie Como, brings you joy. You just recognize it right away, and without a doubt, they're like, yes, this party just got turned.
Think of how many like pop culture moments that's in too, right? Like, is it leave the gun, take the cannolis kind of thing, and they grab the pastry box. It's culturally huge. I got all these things popping into my head now.
Yeah, and I think that especially in 2026 and just the state of the world at large that we're in, especially in America here, where like everything feels more expensive, everything just feels a bit out of sorts. And I feel like people might be skipping those summer vacations this year because of the cost of the gas and everything that we're up against right now. We're not booking that trip, not flying anywhere, but they are going to come to your bakery if you make it a worthwhile visit. And I think that it's a great time, especially in this kind of economic state, a great time to just remember that about your business. If you're considering opening a bakery, it's a beautiful time to do it because people are looking for ways to bring joy into their everyday life that isn't going to cost them too much, So
100%. Well, cool.
All right. Well,
thanks for today, you guys. That was awesome.
I like that topic.
Yeah, it was a good one. So we're playing with different topic ideas. If you guys want to hear us chew the fat on something specific in your bakery, let us know in the comments. Otherwise, we'll keep bringing you different ideas until we hear otherwise.
Yep.
All right.